Staple Hill is a very old community, and although it's on a map for 1610 showing Staple Hill Oak, which is just across the road from the main gates, the memorial gates to Page Park, it's obviously been the heart of the community for very, very many centuries. Staple Hill Oak would have been an ancient gathering place for people, and Page Park, being part of the Hill House estate, is very much part of an area which has always been part of the community. And Page Park is a natural heir to this ancient use of this particular spot of land.
Page Park, really this was Alderman Page's true gift to the inhabitants of Staple Hill. When he bought the estate from Handel Cosham, he really didn't know what he was going to do with the estate, which was an enormous estate going right out into Mangotsfield. The house, Hill House, built by John Andrews in the 1720s. It was built, designed by the Quaker builder and architect George Tully, who built the Quaker Friars in Bristol. And because John Andrews was a Quaker, he came out and built this house for him here in Staple Hill. And Page came to Bristol to perfect his his legal trade, and set up a legal business in Bristol. Bought the estate in the 1890s, and very shortly afterwards began to break up the estate and gave this area of land, which is now Page Park, the 19 acres of his front garden, as it basically would have been, as a public recreation ground. In 1910, he gave the pavilion with its striking clock. 1912, the local people subscribed for a drinking fountain in memory of Alderman Page, and the drinking fountain, yes, albeit in a bit of a different way now, is still there, which is a very good thing that the local people were able to do. 1923, Page provided and paid for boys and girls toilets to be built in the park, a very necessary thing. 1927, I suppose Alderman Arthur William Page, to give him his full name, gave one of the best things to the park, which was the bandstand. Alas, the bandstand has succumbed, and although we still have a bandstand, it's nothing as to the shape of which Page gave in 1927. The last thing that Page gave to the area, because he died on the 28th of November 1928. 1929, the advent of tennis courts were put in. 1931 saw one of the lasting memorials to Alderman Page, the erection of the park gates, which have recently been restored and put back into really prime condition. And then came holidays at home. After the Second World War, we didn't go away for holidays, and local authorities helped by providing all sorts of fun and recreation in local parks. The park today has at least 3 football pitches, 1 cricket square, a bowling green, tennis courts, a sensory garden for people who are visually impaired, all sorts of other bits and pieces. So really it is a park which does need all of our support to keep it up together and to keep it going so that it will be there, as Alderman Page wanted it to be, for the recreation and the well-being of the local people in the Staple Hill area. This is my artefact of Page Park, something that goes right back to when I was a little boy. My boat that I used to sail on the high seas of Page Park Lake. There it is. It must be now nearly 70 years old, and I suspect it would still sail if we had a lake to sail it on.
We are looking at a blend of historical artifacts and remains within the landscape, and we're looking at a park which has developed over time, and we're looking at something where people can see phases of the park's history going back to 100 years ago when the park was first opened. What's so special about Page Park is that you can have a park in any urban setting, but what you've got here is a park which is defined by its sense of history. You've got the Edwardian buildings, the Edwardian structures defining the perimeters of the park. You've got the trees which date back 100 years now, and all those give the park a special atmosphere. And it's that which makes this part of Staple Hill particularly special. And it makes coming here a pleasure, a particular pleasure, not only for the people of Staple Hill, but also for the surrounding area.
Friends of Page Park formed in 1999. Councillor Shirley Potts helped with she's the founder member of Friends of Page Park. And the group formed, and we've dedicated ourselves really to improving facilities and access for all in Page Park, Staple Hill. I mean, life without Page Park is unimaginable really, because it's of immense value to all of us that live locally. And it has an impact on everybody's lives. And if we didn't have it, people would be so much more unfit. We wouldn't be able to interact socially. I mean, it's a place where people can meet, bridging the age, ability and race gaps really, and all interact. You know, it's a good fitness thing for a lot of kids. People walk their dogs here, so it's ageless really. From 0 to 100, you can still come here, even if you're in a wheelchair. It's perfect. And I think we've all got a duty to improve facilities in our local parks whilst we're here, so they're here for future generations to enjoy.
As a lad, I played football fairly regularly in the park. Probably took it for granted really as a kid. It's just somewhere that you would meet. People would say, well, I'll meet you in the park, and it was obvious where you were going to meet. So we'd come to Page Park, play football, use the tennis courts, and generally do the things that kids do in parks, generally hanging around, chatting, and meeting your friends. So it was somewhere I knew fairly well. Although we took it for granted, coming back to it and looking at sort of fresh eyes, you just realise how important it is. It's somewhere that I've used with my own children when I've moved away. And we've come back here because I remember it from my own sort of childhood, so I've brought them back and shown them the park. And there's so many things for so many people of different ages, and that's one of the big attractions. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic park, and the heritage of it, to have all those facilities that you can pass on to other generations is the biggest appeal in trying to raise some money to make sure that the park succeeds for the future.
I've been asked what this park is all about, and to me and my family, it's a family park. I came through when I was 11-year-old to Staple Hill Secondary Modern School, as it was then, which is just adjacent to the park, and I used this park along with all my mates and friends every week, and walk past it to school and back. And from there on, we've always treated this, my family's always treated this as my family park. Heritage, I think really it's one where people think not of today but the future. And I think also that it's vitally important that we keep places like this area for our future grandchildren and their grandchildren. And if we can improve it and make it better, that we should be doing it as much as we possibly can to involve the whole community in getting a better place for our grandchildren.
When I first became a councillor many years ago, one of the residents told me that this Page Park is a jewel in the crown of Staple Hill. And I was a bit amused at that time, but I really realise now why they've said it. Because this is one of two, I think, historic parks in the whole of South Gloucestershire. And I mean, we at the centenary had the Page family, and there was that feeling of walking in the steps of the people who came before. And it was a really wonderful feeling. You were there.
Yeah, it would be lovely to see the bandstand used more often, to be able to reinstate the railings around the area as it was, and you can see where the railings used to be.
That's right.
And that would be fantastic, just to lift the area. It is a fantastic facility, and we need to make the most of it.
You know, Alderman Page actually donated the park, and a couple of years later he donated the clock tower and the bandstand. And I know his grandson John was very, very keen to see that reinstated, and I think it would be of great benefit, and that feeling of history is there.
David, was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about Edwardian parks and the importance of an Edwardian park.
Edwardian parks played a very important social space in the lives of people. Before that, families existed within houses, particularly around the era, as you know, around the suffragette type movements and things like that, and this is very much contemporary with that parks provided an opportunity for both male and females to come out, to enjoy, so both sexes could come out and enjoy open spaces. These were the social spaces that were rolled out from people's front doors. And very much they gave the type of freedom that people needed at that time. So this sort of freedom was all about citizenship, and it was about self-help, it was about people coming out and being themselves, and the parks actually provided this very, very important aspect in social history. We're only passing through, we're the custodians of these spaces, and it's absolutely vital that they maintain, not themselves, but that people maintain these parks.
Yeah.
And in this particular instance, it falls down to greater than if people are involved in it, it's greater than the whole. If we can get as many people as possible involved in this, then it is greater than the whole.
David, what would you like to see happen with Page Park?
To avoid it slipping from its original beauty, I would like to see it restored for the future. And I think that that's what we have a responsibility to do.
It's so easy today to remove our historic environment. With one push of a bulldozer, the whole lot could disappear almost overnight. So it's vital that we do what we can to protect it. It also brings together the community, and community is vitally important. It's their park, it's our park, and as such we've got to look after it and keep it as best we can.